All right, people, here we go. West of the Rockies on Moheak Radio, Moheak.com, broadcasting live from the Swing House Studios here in the Flatlands of Hollywood, California. Really excited about tonight's show because not only do we have a repeat offender, Ernie Alonso of Haunted Orange County, but tonight we actually have a really cool guest who's actually been in a lot of my favorite TV shows and movies, I must say, starting with The X-Files. That has been one of my all-time favorites, let me tell you. But you've also appeared, obviously, in Fast and the Furious, which was a huge hit in the box office. Also, The Last Samurai, CSI New York, Sons of Anarchy, another favorite one of mine. Can we switch lives by any chance just for one day?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, because I'm telling you, you do some really cool stuff. Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicle, Supernatural, the video game L.A. Noire, who's another kick-ass game, Weeds. I mean, the list goes on and on. Mr. Chad Lindberg, how are you, sir?
What's going on, man?
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And, you know, why don't we clarify that we're not using a Ouija board or nothing to communicate with the other side, right?
I'm alive, and I'm well, and my blood is pumping, and I'm breathing.
Cool. Yeah, because you have been the victim, quote unquote, of a death hoax.
Right. We had a really interesting dinner earlier tonight.
Yeah, I was at dinner with Ernie, and he's like, "So you died in April?" And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about? What kind of thing is that to say?" He's like, "No, you died this April," and I'm like, "What?" And he passes over his tablet to me, and there's a page, and it says Chad Lindberg celebrity death hoax, and I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, you made this up. You completely made this page.
Are you fucking with me right now? And I'm
Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, Ernie sent me the link, and I was like, really? I mean, but those are the problems of being kind of a high profile.
I suppose it was a little overwhelming and flattering at the same time.
Right, yeah, it's one of those like backhanded compliments. You're not sure how to take it.
Right, like someone took the time to actually write that shit out, so,
and put it out.
as long as he also found out his dog had just went into surgery, right?
There were some nude photos of me online.
That had leaked.
Oh, really?
That leaked, yes. I'm about to become a dad.
Wow.
By this really lame website. I'll call it out and say it. Was it Media Mass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Of course, I tweeted it and gave them a little press, But it gave us a great lead into the show tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you're quite the fan of the paranormal, correct?
I am a huge fan of the paranormal, and you guys had called it on your flyer a paranormal enthusiast.
Right.
I think that's the best way to describe me.
Absolutely, and I love your cap. You got the Ghostbusters
Absolutely,
logo.
I'm representing. I've got my Ghostbusters hat on, and I'm ready.
Nice. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit how did you go about getting into the paranormal? Did you have a paranormal experience yourself that led you into this?
Yeah, over the years, I've been really passionate about ghosts and the other side, and have lots of experiences over my lifetime. Gosh, when was it? 4 years ago, I wrote the Ghost Adventures of this 3-page handwritten letter asking them if I can be on their show. And
nice.
They're a huge fan of their show. It's my favorite show in the entire world. Anyway, cut to a couple years later. The letter never got to them. A couple years later, Twitter, I reached out to Zach, and I said, if you ever thought about having a guest celebrity investigator, I would love to be on. And he wrote me back. We became friends. I became friends with Aaron Goodwin as well. And a year later, they had me on Return to Linda Vista. And at that point, everything opened up to me, and I've sort of been welcomed into this paranormal world. I've met everybody, or I'm slowly meeting everybody in this sort of very cool circle, and Ernie being one of them.
Totally.
And here I am tonight because of that. So.
No, and that is great. And actually, it's interesting because I had my first paranormal experience at Linda Vista.
Oh, really?
I mean, that place is bananas, let me tell you.
It is.
Like, I was somewhat skeptical about all that stuff, and then I went there, and after my first trip, I was like, okay, this stuff is for real. It's like, it's no joke. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that first experience in Linda Vista?
It was actually my second experience. Years ago, I had done a movie there, and we were filming.
Oh, okay.
And I went down that day to Vic, because people were like, oh, this place is haunted, you gotta come check it out. And I went down that day, and the craft service guy wandered off by himself, got himself locked into one of the morgues. He couldn't get himself out, and he was banging on the walls and going crazy. They called the police. The police got there, and
oh boy,
he was naked.
What?
He was buck-ass naked and they hauled him out.
Really?
Yeah, he went nuts.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. So that was my experience number one. And then, of course, going back years later and investigating with the guys, it was the first time using a spirit box, being introduced to that, and then I had my name called out. And then Aaron and I went and investigated over the mental ward.
Right.
And that's when I got scratched.
Oh, you actually got scratched?
Yes.
Room 323 or somewhere else?
Yes.
323?
Yes, it was in that room, the exact room.
Oh, wow.
Because I had went in there and I was using the spirit box and I said, "Is there anybody in this room with me?" And then you hear it go, "A demon."
Wow.
Not
No
3 or 4 days
way.
later, I reached back and I didn't feel it at the time. And then 3 days later, I was like, "What is burning on the back of my neck?" And I went and looked in the mirror and it was 3 scratches on my back. Yeah, I called
Holy
Zach
cow.
right away and I sent him a picture. I go, "I don't want to jump to conclusions here, but I think I got scratched." And he called me up. He's like, "Yeah, dude."
Well, that's reassuring.
Yeah. And we had a long conversation about it. It was a mixture of overwhelm, kind of like a visceral, like I'm gonna throw up reaction, to feeling like the biggest badass on the entire earth. And
Right.
feeling, you know what I mean? It was like I felt like a vampire for like a week and a half. It was pretty cool. And I kind of consider it to be a gift. Something reached out and touched me.
That is, yeah. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. I mean, you can be positive or negative about it.
Yeah.
No, I remember hearing a lot about that room. You and, of course, AJ Barrera, I believe
Right.
he was the other person that I know of that has been scratched, or at least I've seen it on TV, on the particular episode focusing on Linda Vista. So I think that's it's definitely one of the most active spots that anybody can go and visit, for sure.
And they've just made it into apartments, by the way.
I know,
The
it's such a
mental
shame.
Yeah, it is. But then, like, that stuff doesn't go away. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are going to move into that, and, like, it's still there. I don't know. I don't think it goes away.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting point, because I heard that it was like housing, like, for the elderly.
Right.
And I'm like, is that really a good idea
Which is
to put a bunch of, like, the older folk in there with whatever's in there? But hopefully, that nothing bad will happen. Let me ask you something. As a child, or before you went on your first investigation, did you ever experience anything paranormal?
Yeah, absolutely. 7, 8 years ago, I was with a buddy, and we were not downtown. Well, not downtown. We were in the hills, and we went out for a walk. It was late. We'd have been up late, and we see this woman across the street, and she was this woman in this long dark gown. She had long black hair, and she walked across the street, and she had her hands out. She started bending down, and she's picking up these things off the ground and placing them in her hands. And we thought it was very peculiar, so we kind of walked back, and as we're walking back, we got close to her, and we start to move around because we wanted to see her face. And as we move around her, she does this sort of over-the-top, weird sort of like move, so we couldn't see her face. And she sits down on the curb. And we keep walking past her because we're like, well, maybe this is a real woman. We weren't quite sure what the hell was going on just yet. And we get like 10 feet past her, and we both look at each other. We're like, I think that was a ghost. And we walk back, and she was gone. That was a major thing. That was like 2 minutes of solid, actual apparition. And then I've had many, many experiences beyond that. Before I started actually investigating. Crazy shit.
What do you think? I mean, do you think that that you have some kind of psychic ability? I'm not saying that you're a psychic per se, but it seems like certain people experience this more than others.
Right.
And it's because they kind of are more open, maybe, to the experiences?
Maybe that's it. I feel very open. I feel like I kind of have like a beacon light on me, if you will, when it comes to that stuff. I feel like I attract it somehow.
Right.
And I love it. I mean, I think when something happens to you, it really makes you look within and ask deep questions like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. No, and that's a very valid point, because I wanted to ask you, how has this changed your outlook on life, and for that matter, the afterlife?
Well, I've always believed in that there's another side. I don't know if it's heaven or whatever you want to call it. I think there's something more beyond. There has to be, especially when you have experiences like this. And then, going on the show and meeting the guys and then being open with this world, it definitely opened me up and gave me the tools to sort of learn how to communicate now. Not just sort of like have it happen and be like, okay, that was cool. Well, okay, now I get out my spirit box or my Ovilus. Or,
right.
I've got all the toys. And I take them everywhere now.
Do you have a favorite piece of equipment when you go out?
Spirit box.
The Spirit Box.
Yeah, hands down.
A lot of good results with that?
Amazing results. And I've developed you develop this weird sort of like relationship with
right.
it. It's like, it's like your box. Now,
do you like review your evidence when you get back to the house and?
Yeah, if something happens, if something goes down that's crazy,
Yeah.
I'll go back and review it. And there's a lot of stuff that I've done that I just haven't gone back and listened to, and I probably should.
Yeah, that's me all the way.
Yeah. But,
No, I was just going to say that is very true because I talk to different people that investigate, and they all say that you kind of develop this bond with the tools of your trade, per se.
Yeah.
And I think that is something really interesting because those are the people that tend to get the most results out of it. There's got to be some kind of work connection going on there.
Right.
Now, have you had any experience that has make you think twice about continuing to investigate?
No. I mean, some crazy shit has gone down, especially since I've gone to start investigating Linda Vista, went up to the Wolf Manor, Todd Wolf and Scott Grunwald, who I think we're going to talk to at some point.
Well, Scott's going to call
Mr.
him.
Scott Grunwald. The lovely Scott Grunwald. I know he's listening right now. They were so kind enough to bring me up and let me investigate, and some light flew off the wall at me there.
Oh, wow.
And then went to the Armagosa Hotel. Billy Tolley had a ghost hunt out there for Halloween. Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, I'm reading here in the chat room that Dean W. Girl.
Dean W. Girl, yes, Audrey, yes.
Yeah, she says that you like your Spirit Box so much that you bring it to supernatural conventions.
I did. We did a convention in Las Vegas not too recently, and I brought the Spirit Box on stage. And somebody always now, I do a Q&A of 200, 300, 400 Supernatural fans.
Right.
And someone will always come up and ask a question about Ghost Adventures, and then I, just go on and on about them, how much I love them. And this last time I brought the Spirit Box on, and then I turned it on and put it in the microphone, and I'm like, is anybody here right now? And you don't hear anything. Can you say my name? And I think it goes, Lindberg.
Wow.
Whole crowd.
He's not lying about that because we had dinner at the Magic Castle Friday, and he pulls out his Spirit Box from his
nice.
Well, you pull out of somewhere.
Can't live home without it.
Yeah,
right?
so he was ready for action, but we didn't. Unfortunately, did not get to use it, but definitely he had it with him.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I think that is pretty great. Now, let me ask you something. I mean, you're a pretty high-profile guy, and you work in a lot of projects. What do you think? I mean, in your experience, what's the reception when you tell people that this is something that you enjoy doing? Are most people that you meet pretty open to it, or you get like that weird little look, like, okay, bro, yeah, whatever?
Yes, a couple of people look at you like you have horns coming out of your head. They're like, "What are you talking about?" And then like, "No, this is serious." And then you tell them to go look online or here are the pictures.
Right.
But you can't deny it. I just think you can't deny it. I think there's spirits around us all the time. I think they're everywhere. I think they're in this building. I think they're surrounded. They're with us all the time. And how can you not have something happen to you?
Right.
You just got to be open to it.
Now, I was at the Heritage Square event that was hosted by Haunted Orange County, and I was actually in the Octagon House. I spent my night there with AJ and Jennifer. And I was actually there when they were doing a session with the Spirit Box, and I believe your name was called out.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that was pretty amazing. And, I mean, I saw your very genuine reaction to it. Why don't you, walk me through that scene, how you perceived it at that point?
Well, we were in a group of, it must have been 20 people in there.
Give or take,
and he had the Spirit Box out, right? And then I think he asked to say somebody's name or something, and it said did it say my first or last?
Yeah, it said your first name with a pause and then the last name.
Yeah, I felt honored. I mean, I think when anything calls out your name, it's a huge gift.
And that's, I mean, to me, that's the crazy thing because, a lot of people who are skeptics, and I mean, everybody has the right to their own opinion.
Right.
One of the things that they'll say is like, well, how do you know that this is not just picking up a stray frequency? Well, what are the odds that you're going to get Chad and Lindberg at that exact moment when somebody's asking this type of question? How do you deal with people that say, well, you're probably, your gadgets or whatever are just, not just kind of playing tricks with you there.
I don't even listen to them because they're wrong.
Right?
You know what I mean? They're wrong, and if you don't believe it, cool. I'm probably not going to talk to you.
Right.
Actually, the first time when we did the preliminary investigation for Heritage Square, I went with Ramiro. He took me, and he actually caught the spirit saying my first and last name. I think it said Ernie's here, Ernie. We like Ernie Alonzo, or something to that effect.
Right.
But it said it all within the span of maybe 30 seconds. And I kind of had the same feeling, but we pulled up in front of his house after we were done with the investigation, and he plugged it into my car, and I was able to hear it loud and clear. And that was
Wow.
the first time I had ever had my first and last name said.
It's a trip.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Have you ever...
See, I feel left out because I only get my first name. Then again, my last name is a little complicated, so maybe they go start like, what, screw this guy. If Frank is not enough, then forget him. But no, it was actually in Linda Vista, actually. My first time in Linda Vista, and we were in the surgical wing.
Right.
And it was an overnight thing, and it was almost the end. It was like 4:15 a.m.
Wow.
With some of the young ladies from BHPP, and they asked me like, well, would you like to sit in an EVP session? And at that point, I was so green, I had no clue what an EVP session was. I was like, okay, as long as it doesn't hurt, right?
Right.
So, they started asking questions with the spirit box, and they said, can you say somebody's name? And all of a sudden you hear Frank, just clear as day. And I'm like, oh, crap, like, great, and they're like super excited. I'm freaking out. And they're like, well, can you say it one more time? It's like, Frank. And I was like, oh, my God, And it was quite the experience. I mean, at that point, like literally like a foot away from my face, I just heard this disembodied, like this heavy, cold, like, like sigh. And there were the other girls were sitting right in front of me, and it happened like in the middle of us.
So
like,
everyone heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like grabbed the arm of one of them and just squeezed her arm, and I'm like, oh my God, like I can't believe this is happening. And down the hall on the wall, we began to see this weird light on the wall just kind of forming, and it was like this silvery white light, and it began to just kind of like swirl around, and they were like, oh, you're doing great, you're doing such a good job, like talking to this spirit. And I'm standing back there like Usain Bolt, ready to like take off, thinking like first bang that happens, I'm out of here. But I mean, that was my experience, my first experience, like I said, and I haven't been the same since. I mean, I have a very Linda Vista has a very special place in my heart in that regard, because it really opened my eyes to that, which otherwise it would have been, I'm pretty sure I would have continued to be somewhat cynical. And that's what I tell people, right? It's like you really have to go and experience this. I mean, you have been on Ghost Adventures and stuff, and I mean, it's not the same thing watching it. I mean, you can be at home in your couch and you're watching this, and it's all cool, fun and games. But why don't you tell me a little bit what it's like to be there at that moment when all these things are happening?
I don't even know if you can put it into words, really. I don't even know how I can put it in. It's indescribable when you hear your name called, because who is that?
Mm-hmm.
Who is that saying hi, and why did they come forward to reach out to you?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I think when something happens, it just opens you up.
Right.
It's kind of profound.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just your personal opinion, what do you think we're dealing with? Are we dealing with the souls of the departed? Are these demons? I mean, what a combination of the two?
I think yes, a combination of everything. It's so hard to say. I think it's incomprehensible to our minds, really, what is going on.
Right.
I think it's ghosts. I think it's people that are lost, maybe. Definitely demons, negative spirits, all of the above.
Right.
It could be your guides, too. It could be, who knows, loved ones coming through. It's hard to say.
Now, you said something right now, guides. Do you believe in guides? Do you believe that you have personal guides yourself?
Yeah, I think we have spirit guides that help us, guide us along the way. Absolutely. I've seen mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This was years ago. I was getting out my wisdom teeth, and my mom was there. She was right next to me, and I was just coming out of surgery. And I look up, and I see this woman standing in the doorway, and she was a black woman. There were no black women working at this dentist office at the time, and I wake up, and I'm like, I see this lady standing in the doorway looking at me, and then I go back to sleep, and I wake up, and I turn to my mom, and I go, where was that lady? And she's like, there was no one there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've just kind of felt this. I've dreamt about her, and I just kind of feel like I've seen her.
Wow.
Yeah. Who knows?
So she's the black woman.
Yes. She was standing in the doorway looking at me, but it wasn't anyone that was working in there. It wasn't. Yeah.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
No, that's intense. I mean, like I said, to me it seems like it takes a certain type of individual to kind of have, you know, these type of experiences. And, you know, I mean, I know that it's not for everybody, but I definitely encourage people to have a healthy interest to go into to do this. Now, what's your take if you have a friend that comes up to you and says, you know, hey, you know, you mind if I tag along? Can I go? Usually I try to be very careful because, you know, you don't want to take somebody with like the wrong intention to these places.
That's exactly it. It was funny. I was mentioning to Ernie tonight at dinner. I said it's all about your intent.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about your intent. If people are going in there to do some, let's just say, some fucked up shit, then you're gonna get some fucked up shit.
No, absolutely.
You know, and that's just not a way to go. I think you need to go in there with pure intentions.
Mm-hmm.
I go in there with the intent to communicate
Mm-hmm.
and the intent to, you know, deepen myself. You know.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
Do you take any precautions when you go to do these things?
Yeah, I've put the oils on, you know, the back of the neck, you know, or especially coming out sage. Definitely sage myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that helps. I don't think it entirely takes care of everything.
Right.
I know when I went and investigated the Wolf Manor, I was there 2 days. And after the second night, I was pretty much comatose in my hotel room. I couldn't move. I was in a state of serious, I don't even know if it wasn't depression. It was just like odd. I felt very odd. And then I got a call the next morning from my nephew.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of like woke me out of it. I remember like just needing that call from him.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think these places affect you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what has been the one place where you've experienced the most messed up crap?
Linda Vista and the Wolf Manor.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Linda Vista it's high up on the list, and the Wolf Manor is I mean, I haven't been there. I'm hoping to get out there hopefully in the summer.
Yeah.
Because I hear a lot of crazy stories about that, and it seems to have a very similar history as Linda Vista, right? It used to be like some kind of a
It was a
hospital.
hospital. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then when they tore it down,
Mhm.
Todd Wolf was saying that it was a psychic or a medium that came out there and basically like put up this like went outside and kind of put up this web in the field. Kind of, I don't know, this psychic web or whatever, and basically sort of like flush all of the spirits that were in that hospital into the house.
Oh wow!
And so now it's just like
So the house is
they're
there.
all in there. Yeah.
They're all cramped up in there.
Yeah, they are
Wow.
in there. Yeah. When we were there, we heard and Scott will verify this. We were Scott. We were all, 4 of us in a room, and Scott goes hello, like a very long hello, and we heard back almost instantly. We hear this woman in the hallway go hello, and we all tripped out.
Oh man!
Yeah, and then after that, the light flew off on the wall, and it almost hit me, and it was crazy.
No way.
Yeah.
Now, here's the crazy thing. It's like, you know, we hear these stories, and, like, for example, I'd be, like, freaked out. Like, I would probably be running out the door, right? However, when you're there, it's not even fear that you feel at that moment. It's just this, like, moment of awe, at least in my experience, where it's like you really can't, like, you really don't want to leave because you know you're experiencing something that not many people get to experience.
Right. It's a gift. Yeah, absolutely. And it's, yeah, you kind of want to run, but you can't, you know?
Now, something I've said before is that, you know, when you go and investigate and stuff like that, it's cool to have, like, all the tools.
Yeah.
However, it seems like your body becomes the ideal detector of anything going on. Can you tell me your experiences with that? I mean, do you feel like, I mean, what goes through you? I mean, do you get chills? Do you just get this feeling like somebody's watching you or hearing you?
Yeah, I think you can feel something up on you, you know, can manifest in the chills or the goosebumps, getting hot, sort of that like sort of sweaty, sort of like hot feeling, dizziness. Yeah, I mean they have the power, I think, to really influence you.
Right. Totally. And I know, Ernie, that you found the clip from.
Oh yeah, there's
Why don't you let me see what the name is, and I'll pull it up. And for the people that are in our
well, I have
Ustream chat,
I have it queued up to the part where it says his name. I don't know if you want to plug into it and.
Okay.
Will that
Yeah.
work?
Let's. Yeah.
Maybe
Totally.
a little bit faster.
Let me
Where's this
give you
from?
this guy.
Oh, nice.
So we can just do the audio, right? Because this is more or less an EVP.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's a
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's,
All right. So
yeah, you kind of want to run, but you can't.
you want to set this one up, Chad, or
Yeah,
something I've said
we
before is
had
that you know
been
when
there
you go
for a
and
while,
investigate and stuff like that,
and we were walking down the hallway,
it's cool to.
and Zach had the spirit box, and I was walking next to him, and he goes, "Who's standing next to me right now?" And I believe that's what he said, and it goes, "Chad," and he goes, "Chad, it just said that," and I flipped out and thought it was the most incredible thing I'd ever heard.
Nice. Okay, so we're gonna listen to this one, and Ernie, I think you got the chat open on your computer as well. So why don't you mute the chat real quick so we don't get my voice there twice, and we can hear this thing. Okay, why don't you fire that up? I think we're ready to go.
Can you say one of our names? Jack.
That was crystal clear.
Yeah. Can you say one of our names? Jack.
That was crystal clear.
Yeah.
That is
Love that little
insane.
jump.
Yeah.
Give it there.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Now, what do you think of the methods that Ghost Adventures uses? Because they get some of the craziest stuff. I
They
mean,
do.
like, do you think that it's just, again, like you keep saying, it's a gift? Do you think it's just something that they have with them that no matter where they go, they're going to get results?
Yes.
Or is it just their method?
You said that without any hesitation there.
Yeah, I think that's who they are. I mean, it's apparent when you watch the show. I mean, it's my favorite show. I think they're so good at what they do, and they're so professional about it, and they have so much integrity about it too. If something's not there, they're not gonna, make shit up and say
Right.
that was something. They're gonna be like, they're gonna try to debunk everything. And of course, getting to know these guys, I don't know. I just feel very honored to have gotten to know them and be on the show and watch them and learn from them, and it's pretty cool.
What is the one thing that you have learned from investigating with them that you apply every time you go on an investigation?
I think when just using the tools like the spirit box and just I don't know, it just not to be afraid,
Right.
But even they get afraid, which is kind of like fun to see,
Right?
Because
Totally.
yeah.
I think we all enjoy those moments when you see him like panicking. I mean, one of my favorite moments, which I probably shouldn't laugh because if it were to happen to me, I would like probably die. But it was again in Linda Vista, and I forgot who it was, but I guess he saw the apparition. I think of a young girl or a young lady, and like right in front of him, and he like bolts.
Oh, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like
it was
the
at Linda Vista,
cameras
right.
like glitched at the exact same time.
Yes.
And you enjoy like seeing like panic, of course, but then you think that, wow, if that was me, how would I react? I mean,
Something you'll never forget. I mean, I asked him about it. He's like, yeah, that's something I will never forget. She was standing literally like a foot or 2 feet in front of him, reaching her hands out to him, which is even more
yeah, that's.
fucked up and scary.
I got chills just when you said.
Yeah,
'cause I don't
exactly.
think he says that on the episode. I don't think he mentions the hands.
Maybe not. Yeah, she was
Outstretched.
reaching out.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of the intent when they went back was
Oh,
to
crap.
communicate with her. And then I had gone back later, like a year later, and was doing a little investigating. And then I was trying to contact her, and they believed her name was Chloe. And then I asked, and then I heard this sort of like disembodied, like,
Oh wow.
Right, yeah, on top of all this other stuff that happened. But the place is bananas. I kind of want to go right now.
No, tell me about it. And actually, my first EBP, if we can believe this,